But we're grateful you're here. I won't keep you very long because there's a lot of great information to get to. But the last time we were together was a little over a year ago. I think it was in June of last year, where we shared with you some results of a survey that was done in cooperation and collaboration with SME, which is Learfield's marketing arm. We sent out about 250,000 surveys, 9,000 responses, which is a great return. We found out a couple of things which we thought, but it's great to be confirmed through research. One is that everybody here, whether it's faculty, students, alumni, staff, have immense pride in this university. I know everybody in this room does, including me. The other thing we found out was there was a lot of fragmentation, a lot of confusion about the brand. I had an opportunity to talk to the trustees in February, told them the good, the bad, and the ugly, mostly good, but nonetheless, we have work to do. That's why you're here today. So I just wanted to welcome you, thank you. We're going to talk a little bit about those findings, about the way forward. But one of the things I want to relay to you is that we're really here to be good stewards and good partners with you. This is kind of together marching to a brave new world, so to speak, in a way that we haven't done before. So we look forward to working alongside you and collaboratively with you. We urge you to continue to reach out to us. Again, we're a tremendous resource, but I know there's going to be a lot of questions. So please look at us as partners. We're here to be helpful. And with that, I'm turning it to you, Mark?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you again. Thanks for coming on this gorgeous day.
Thank you, Julie.
Thanks.
I am Mark Kraft. I have had the privilege of being here just over 3.5 years, and I have over 30 years experience in corporate communications, branding, marketing, and I spent a few years in the news media. So I've really been able to see from both sides how brands work, both as a journalist and both as a professional communicator and marketer. I came to Purdue from Raytheon, where I was communications and marketing lead. Before that, I was at Anthem in Indianapolis. Before that, I was at Duke Energy. And I also spent time at Simon Property Group and Hillenbrand Industries. Can't hold a job, I guess, but in all of that corporate experience, I've either been directly responsible for brand management and governance or was part of the team that was responsible for that. This is our agenda. We're up to me now. And before I turn it over to Emily Blue, who is Purdue Marketing's manager of brand advertising and sponsorships, and then after her, you'll hear from Mary King, who's our Senior Director of Marketing and Operations, and she's also responsible for trademarks and licensing. I just want to spend a couple of quick minutes to talk about the Purdue brand and why protecting it is so important. Last year, about July, Purdue switched from the Collegiate Licensing Company, CLC, to Learfield Licensing. CLC is based in Georgia. Learfield is based in Indiana. And so, as Julie said, we used that opportunity to do extensive research on the Purdue brand. We did both quantitative and qualitative research with online surveys and in-depth interviews. The links to the surveys ran in Purdue Today. It was a very extensive sample. You'll hear more about that in a minute. But just by a show of hands, how many of you took part in that survey or involved in the interviews? Okay, a very good showing. Thank you. Thank you for your feedback on that. The upshot of that research is that respondents thought there are too many marks and logos. Several respondents didn't even know which marks and logos are official. And I think we can all appreciate that. So the overarching conclusion was that instead of confusion and proliferation, there needs to be unification and simplicity. So that led to, as Julie said, the Purdue board of Trustees taking up the Purdue brand earlier this year. And that ultimately led to President Daniels' brand governance directive of July 6th of this year. And I'm sure you're all familiar with that. But just a note about the trustees. We have some brand heavy hitters on the Board of Trustees now. We have Don Thompson, the former chair and CEO of McDonald's, who lived and died by the McDonald's brand. We have Vanessa Castagna, who worked for Mervyn's department stores and Target. And before that, she did a stint with Federated, which owns Macy's and Bloomingdale's. We also have Michael Clips, part of the Clips audio group, which now owns major brands like Audiovox, which is a global brand. They even own the RCA brand now. So they took this to heart, and that's what led to the president's directive. And that is really why we're here. So to set the stage this afternoon and level set and calibrate all of this, and a lot of this is going to be preaching to the choir, I know. The brand isn't just a set of rules and standards and guidelines for proper use. All of that is important. But more important is the fact that a brand is really an organization's way to express its culture. In our case, it really expresses the dynamic culture of discovery that's on all of the Purdue campuses and statewide locations, and the people who make and create that culture. It's Purdue students, faculty, staff, all of you in this room, basically anyone having a vested interest in Purdue. How many of you are familiar with Zappos or do business with Zappos? Okay, I really like what their CEO says, Tony Hsieh. Your culture is your brand, and that is so true. So this is the Purdue brand. This is the Purdue signature logo. You may call it, you may hear it referred to as the Purdue signature mark. The point is, it's a very strong brand, as the research showed, especially internationally. The farther away we get from West Lafayette, the stronger this brand becomes, even more so than the Motion P, which is the primary athletic mark. There's a lot of confusion internationally about the Motion P. People confuse it with the Pittsburgh Pirates logo. There's a lot of high schools that have borrowed it, so to speak. But this is really a very strong brand. And with so many great things happening at Purdue, this is our opportunity to showcase all of that to the world, with a really strong and unified brand. The Purdue signature logo we maintain is as venerable and strong as these international brands. And to Tony Hsieh's point of your culture is your brand, what do you think about these companies when you think of them and see their brand logos? What comes to mind? That's really the key. To protect their global reputations and brand equity, which is proven to have a real financial impact, as well as a reputational impact, these companies don't stray from these basic marks, and they are ruthless about protecting them. Unfortunately, in the last several years, and for a number of reasons, we have strayed from our strong basic logo and mark, essentially our brand. This is merely to illustrate how we have all let the Purdue brand become wrongfully modified and highly fragmented. Think of the confusion this causes for our stakeholders, which was proven by the research. And that led to brand dilution. And these are the approved academic lockups, which Purdue marketing approved. That was pre-me, of course, but I'll still take the blame. But look at the signature mark at the top of the slide, and then look how all of these academic lockups are. And the research showed that when participants were shown these lockups, all they saw was the black Purdue part of the logo. They didn't even see the college name. And as a result, on the lower half of the slide, you can see the extreme this brand dilution has been taken to. Again, this is not to place blame, although there might be a little there for Purdue Botany and Plant Pathology being in crimson. But again, it's not to place blame, but merely to show that with our very solid research, we have a major opportunity to rectify all of this. And that's why we're here. As President Daniels likes to say, we sing louder when we harmonize together. And next you'll see how that is being accomplished. So thank you very much for your kind attention. I'd like to turn it over to Emily Blue now, who's going to talk about some very exciting things that are on the horizon coming all of our way. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark. For those of you who don't know me, I am the manager of brand advertising and sponsorships here at Purdue. And my quick background is that I'm a proud Boilermaker graduating from the School of Communication. And I then went to work for Cardinal Health, a Fortune 500 company, in their Marcom department on managing their brand and marketing collateral. And then I came back to the region, and I worked at Deering Group for a number of years as a copywriter and then later as the media director before coming here to Purdue and working as a marketing strategist at first alongside many of you in this room, and now I'm in my current role. So proud Boilermaker and really excited to be in this role and to help with some of these refinements to help strengthen our reputation and our brand on a global scale. So for a while now, Purdue Marketing has realized that we've needed to do some brand refinement activities by mapping out the parameters of the use of all of our various university logos. The overall objective of that brand refinement initiative is to leverage brand recognition and equity by setting a clear, consistent direction with brand use among internal stakeholders as well as producers of the Purdue product, which are also known as licensees. As Mark mentioned, we partnered in 2016 with SME, the research arm of Learfield Licensing, and we did the extensive brand study. Over 9,000 respondents we had to our Qualtrics quantitative survey, and the objective of that was to conduct a baseline assessment of our awareness and understanding of Purdue's logos and trademarks among key stakeholders. SME then conducted one-on-one interviews on campus with stakeholders with the objective of understanding the perception of Purdue's institutional branding and architecture from both an internal and external perspective, as well as the perception of our apparel and merchandise. The results of our combined research aligned, and SME offered up the following strategic recommendations. First, to present a consistent brand image and encourage appropriate use of its assets, Purdue must adopt a centralized brand management system. This system must empower Purdue's Office of Marketing and Media with jurisdiction to enforce precise guidelines, a formal approvals process, and implications for misuse. So this recommendation was fulfilled with the brand governance memo that was sent out by President Daniels on July 6th. Marketing and media has always technically been responsible for managing and protecting the Purdue brand, but as you saw on the brand fragmentation slide, as Mark shared, some had to be reminded. If you have not seen this memo, then you can actually view it as well as every other ELIS 39 that went out by you can Google Purdue ELIS 39, or I believe it's just purdue.edu/ELIS 39. Or we do have the brand governance memo on our Purdue brand website. If you click on strategy, you can view the document there and a supplemental document as a resource. So check that off the list. Recommendation made and recommendation fulfilled. All right, the second recommendation from SME was the university's architecture should be refined to establish a concise and consistent brand identity. The Motion P should be considered to serve as the university's approved secondary mark. So, Another one that we can check off the list, we have officially opened up the Motion P for use by academic units on their promotional items. This comes with some restrictions. It's a federally registered trademark logo, and with that comes rules in order for us to keep it in that status. So it's nothing that we just make up because we're mean. These are things that we have to do to protect the status of this mark. So it can't be paired with your academic lockups or co-brands. It needs to respect the protected area around the logo, etc. So full guidelines will be added to our website in the coming months. There was a previous athletic guidebook when the logos, the new Motion P and the new Boilermaker Special were released in 2012, but that book has since been outdated, and so it's not on the web, but we will include full guidelines on use by especially academic areas as well as student organizations on our brand toolkit, which I'll get to in a second. So yes, you're able to use the Motion P, but again, on promotional items only. Because remember that our baseline assessment of logos show that the Motion P does not communicate Purdue or all the qualities that the university wishes to exemplify. For example, it ranked #1 for pride and championship, but it ranked lower in the lower half for academic strength, stability, global leadership, tradition, and success. Not surprising, the signature logo did rank first in stability, global leadership, community, and success, and second in forward thinking and academic strength. So I keep referring to this research study, and I know that not everyone was here for the original presentation a year ago when SME or combined research. So we are happy to send you that full report that was conducted by us and SME. So again, after this meeting, you'll receive a follow-up email and a survey, and it'll have in the email details on how to request a copy of the report. Okay, strategic recommendation number 3 was a refined co-branding system beneath the university's primary signature logo should be established to serve each of Purdue's programs and schools. So here we have our current marketing and media co-brand logo, as we call it. So the new co-brand system, which we are rolling out, will better highlight the unit name and allow for more flexibility. Its larger, bolder font will be more legible on applications such as apparel and more friendly for digital use. And here's the big reveal. And let me tell you, it's not that big of a difference, but it's a very important difference. Again, it puts more emphasis. It doesn't detract from the Purdue University mark, but yet it puts your department, school, program, whatever you wish to convey, more front and center, and it's much more legible for you. So while we were exploring the new co-brand architecture, we realized that we needed to take a step back and examine the academic lockups that we've allowed. So here's an example kind of a lockup, remove the word university and put whatever you want, almost. So not long after the Purdue signature mark was adopted, stakeholders began to voice the desire for branding that was more focused on their college, school, or department. So in lieu of giving them their own individual logos, we created the lockups, where again the university was replaced with the name of their college, school, or administrative unit. Unfortunately, the compromise combined with a lack of oversight opened the doors for eventual creation of dozens of lockups. By existing in so many altered forms, the Purdue University signature mark's visual integrity and brand equity has been significantly diluted and compromised. In a well-curated logo system, the primary mark should never be presented in partial form or in a combination with any other words or graphics. By eliminating the lockups completely and creating a more robust and flexible co-brand system, we rebuild a strong foundation for Purdue, the Purdue brand, in the long term. So back to the new co-brands. Because of the flexibility, we have vertical, horizontal, and even a double-tier architecture, allowing you to customize your preferred logo based on the audience for each piece of marketing collateral. Here are some examples of the vertical and the horizontal orientations. And here's an example of the new double-tier logo. So one thing to remember in all of this is that your logo does not need to explain everything to your audience. It's not the place to cram every layer of your organizational structure. It's good to think of it from an environmental standpoint. What primary piece of information does your audience need to know about you? Are you just part of Purdue, or are you part of a department housed within the College of Health and Human Sciences, for example? Choose what's most important to communicate to your audience and try to keep the logo as clear and concise as possible. And if you have trouble determining what that is, I'm sure that your department communications lead, if you're not in that role, or of course marketing media, are more than happy to help you and provide illustrations. So one important thing to note is that while your co-brand logo or the signature logo should always serve as your official identity mark, your official logo, we're not asking you to cease use of any other graphic elements that were created to reflect your individual identity of your program or department. Many of you have actually had brand family looks created by marketing and media, which helps share your identity and shape it within the institutional brand. You are encouraged to continue to use your unique identity, but always pairing it with the official mark. This will help us build equity for the Purdue brand, and it'll directly link your respective areas with a world-renowned institution. So again, this is I think one of the most common misconceptions after brand governance memo went out was that you couldn't use any of some of the primary graphics that you're currently using. You can use those as a graphic element, again, or part of your brand family look. But again, they just need to be partnered with the official logo to build that brand equity. Because there are lots of examples we've found of a unique identity that an area has been using on campus that might not be any shade of black or gold and might not even say the word Purdue. So if it's standing alone, you're not clearly communicating what a great institution that this program or this school are a part of. And so we find that's very important, and it kind of does a disservice to you if you don't link to Purdue, because we think we're pretty great. We also are aware of the uniqueness of logos that appear on our responsive websites. So we are working on creating suggestions and guidelines to help aid you in updating those marks in the upcoming months. Because again, when you shrink to different mobile screen sizes, we understand that the logo space gets smaller and smaller, and it's harder and harder to read the words that are appearing. And so our digital team is working on this solution, and we will have this information, again, not maybe technical hard guidelines on what you should, or mandates of what you should do, but suggestions to help your web team and designers apply the logo so it's obviously legible in all cases. So we'll have these guidelines available after we do a little bit more testing ourselves. So this is the exciting part, for me at least. So to help aid in creating all of these new co-brands, we're going to launch an online logo co-brand generator. This tool will reside on our brand website and allow a designee within your department, school, or college to create compliant co-brand logos. We're in the process of reaching out to our key stakeholders to compile a list of those designees in the university. This will ensure that the co-brands are being requested and they'll follow the parameters set by each area. For example, some colleges may allow co-brands to drill down to the programmatic level and within the double-tier system, but others might not want to be that specific. Once the co-brand is requested, it'll come to Purdue Marketing for quick approval to be an extra set of eyes on it to make sure that it's factually correct and everything is spelled right. And with a click of an approval button, it'll create a zip file of logo files that will be sent to the requester via email. The previous process was much more cumbersome and could take a week or longer to fill requests. So we're very excited to expedite logo creation. So without further ado, I'm going to show you a demonstration of the generator, which is still in development. We're making impressive progress on it and hope to start beta testing very soon. I'll have a timeline at the end of my portion. So the designee will go in after career account authentication, select if you want a horizontal or vertical orientation, and then right now we have West Lafayette and also Northwest's campus who can request. So I'm going to do a West Lafayette horizontal. Right here at the bottom of the page, it shows a preview of the logo. So it gives you an idea of what would appear on each line. So the top line is the primary name, and the secondary name is below it. So I want to create a logo with the primary name, marketing and media, and the secondary name below it, Office of Public Affairs. I then click Preview Logo, and there's the preview of the logo. Once I review it on the screen and ensure it looks good, I will submit request. And that's when then it's sent to our brand team, notifies us we have a logo ready for review. We take a look at it, we approve it, and then you receive an email back instantaneously that contains the file in AI, SVG, PNG, and EPS format, I believe are the four, so pretty versatile for any application you may need. We are looking at expanding that in the future, but for test purposes right now, this is what we have. So again, kind of excited about this. This is a process, again, that could take a lot longer in the past, and we're happy to have awesome developers here at Purdue who can make this magic happen. So that's just a simple preview of one of the logos here. All right, back to the presentation. All right. Oh, and there was a screenshot of what I just showed you. And last presentation, I learned that there was a few who took note of what that URL was and tried to hack into it. It won't work, I'm telling you. But soon enough, you will have access, I promise. All right. So while we keep our brand site as current as possible within our toolkit, we haven't taken a really extensive look at our brand guidelines since they were first created over 7 years ago. Therefore, we're currently updating our brand guidelines to be much more robust and include brand strategy and key messaging for the institutional brand. This is information that previously was on our site, but then taken down a number of years ago. And I think it's really important, again, to convey the messaging not only within our original institutional messaging when our brand was formed, but also some reminding people of the pillars of Purdue Moves and other major campus-wide initiatives and how to work that in within your messaging to your key stakeholders. We also will include in the brand guide online details on voice, tone, visual guidelines for print, digital, web, photo, and video, logo do's and don'ts. We'll also have examples of stationery templates for digital purposes, email signature guidelines, and how to effectively create materials with the primary logo, but also using your secondary graphic elements to enhance them. So we want to make it a lot more friendly for really practical applications. We've listened to your questions over years, commonly asked, and taken note of that, and we definitely want to include all of those in the upcoming revisions to the guide. So we'll plan to have this as on our website, but also as a PDF, maybe within sections that you can then download in small doses. We also are updating our brand request workflow and process to expedite unusual, I'd say, or special requests, such as approvals for third parties to use our photography, or shoot videos on campus, or utilize our logo on their website to officially illustrate a partnership with Purdue. A lot of you do come to our office quite regularly, especially, we have a company, we just bought licenses for software, and now they want to put our logo on their website. Is that okay? So we will work through this brand workflow so it's clearly communicated who you need to contact so you'll get an answer quickly. All right, so here's the timeline. Most of the timeline has us going live by Monday, February 5th, 2018. So after a few more tweaks and compiling the list of designees for the co-brand creation, we'll begin beta testing the logo generator this fall. And those of you who will get in and start to help create some of these for us, again, February 5th is more of like the deadline where everything will flip over. We want the new logo to be completely used in all situations and the academic lockup not used. So if we have access in a week, hypothetically speaking, to the logo generator and you start creating those logos, by all means, can start to use them and apply them to your pieces. It's not that you have to hold anything back until February. We just want to make sure all the bugs are worked out, so we've given us a little bit of buffer. So again, on February 5th, all new marketing materials should now incorporate the new co-brand logos. So here are some tips as you prepare to roll out the refined co-brand logos. First, begin to think about phasing out the use of the academic lockups in your current co-brands. Again, you can still use them through February 5th, 2018. But if you are creating something and you don't have access to your new co-brand, you can always use the signature logo to convey the connection to Purdue University. You can then put your department name or whatever else that's important within a headline, depending on what the piece is, of course. It always depends, one size does not fit all. But just keep that under consideration if you're wanting to create something now. Just know again that in a few months it might be out of date with the logo. Of course, communicate these changes to anyone else within your department or programs who's not here today. As Mark said, we are recording this, and this is the second of 2 sessions. And so after this is over, we will be placing the slides on our website. If we have a link to that, if it's up, which it should be, by the time we send out that follow-up survey, we'll also include a link to that, so you can distribute that to whomever you wish. And then we also, again, will have this video, after a little bit of editing, up on our site as well. So we'll communicate that to everyone, too, so you can pass that around to everyone who wasn't able to make it today, and if they have any questions. Start to deplete inventory of your existing materials that include old co-brand or lockup logos. No, we're not having a bonfire of all the pieces that have outdated logos. We want you, of course, to be good stewards of our resources. And so if you have a tablecloth and it has an incorrect logo as of February 5th, by all means, keep using it. When it comes around time to order a new one, then please, use the new logo. But we're not telling you to just automatically start tearing down signage off the walls and changing everything overnight. Again, this is a transitional period, we understand. So really, it's just anything new that you're creating just to use the new co-brand logo. So try not to place large orders of materials that contain the soon-to-be outdated logos. And encourage anyone with questions to contact your marketing strategist, or you can email purduebrand@purdue.edu with any questions. I just want to emphasize, just remember, we're here as a resource to help you with everything brand related. We aren't here to penalize you if you make a mistake. Our primary goal is to educate you on the brand guidelines to continue to progress the reputation of Purdue University forward and upward. So one last thing about our brand as it relates to our 1,000 student organizations who weren't innocent in adding to our brand fragmentation. A lot of the examples on that brand fragmentation slide were examples from student organizations. So in the last year, we've worked really closely with student activities and organizations to collect logos from them, and we collected 400, which was really good, and 71 out of the 400 were found to be violating at least one of our brand guidelines. So over several months, we met with them, attended workshops that they held, and had one-on-one meetings with student leaders to address the issues and to work on solutions to update their marks. We also had an opportunity at that time to talk with them about the importance of using licensed vendors for purchases, promotional purchases, which is a common problem with student orgs. So the top example here on this before and after working with them, obviously the first example, it has the Motion P being used incorrectly. The second was a Boilermaker Special logo that retired in 2012, so it's now a vintage mark. And then the third, again, was using the Motion P to create a new logo. And again, because it's federally registered, it can't be used to enhance another graphic. It has to stand alone and can't look like it's being added. So we had great conversations with students on that. So besides brand standards and guidelines to ensure brand compliance, the other major component of brand governance and trade is trademarks and licensing. Trademarks and licensing ensures that when Purdue brand is in the form of logos and marks, is placed on apparel and merchandise, it's done so correctly by a licensed vendor. In Purdue's case, that's even more critical sometimes compared to other entities. So here to explain why is Mary King, Senior Director for Marketing Operations. There's the clicker if you need it, but this one, okay.
Okay. Hi, I'm Mary King, Senior Director Operations for Purdue Marketing. I've been at Purdue for 15 years. I'm a Boilermaker. I have worked through brand transitions and implementations at 3 different institutions, and I've lived to tell. And yeah, it is a challenge. There's a lot of angst along the way, but I promise you, on the other side of it, it's a better life. I worked for IU in the early 90s when we went to a system-wide brand. I think it was one university, 8 front doors was our campaign then. I went to work for Ivy Tech. We were Indiana Vocational Technical College, changed our name to Ivy Tech State College, and then finally to Ivy Tech Community College. So lots of transition. It's not just even the brand, it's the curriculum and articulation and all that great stuff. So, but it does bring a better day for all of us. So I'm here to talk to you a little bit about licensing. And licensing is an extension of the brand. It appears on retail products. So licensing involves companies who pay for rights of use to use our brand. It creates marketplace demand. When you buy a sweatshirt, but you also buy a Purdue sweatshirt. And like I said, it creates demand in the marketplace. So hence, those companies pay for rights to use our brand. And that money that comes into the university benefits student scholarships here at Purdue. So annually, about $1 million a year go into the General Scholarship Fund for our students here at Purdue. So it's very important for us to use licensed vendor when we purchase product. You may be kind of wondering, well, what does that have to do with me as an internal consumer? We do, the place where licensing does intersect with the campus community is when you put the brand on a product, a promotional product, an apparel item, maybe that you're creating for your department, your school, college area. But please know in those circumstances, you are considered what we call an internal order. So there is no royalties paid on that product, so there's no upcharge to anybody internal using one of our licensed vendor to produce product. There's a few reasons why you should use a licensed vendor. Sometimes people don't use licensed vendors for branded product. At the very base level, it's illegal for a company to use a trademark logo without being a licensed provider at the very base of it. But there's also some benefits to us at Purdue, too, beyond even the royalties that some of these groups pay on the retail side of things. It helps our procurement office, who have to manage all of our vendors. That's one thing that they're really helping us with is ensuring people use licensed vendors because it makes their life a little bit easier. But it also can make your life a little bit easier, too, because when you use a licensed vendor, they have a relationship with us. You're going to get good customer service, and if you don't, there's some repercussions for that. If we have bad quality from a vendor, they could potentially lose their license. So that's one reason it's really important to use a licensed vendor. They also know our brand. You're going to have less back and forth with a vendor that isn't really familiar with our brand. They also adhere to a code of conduct, what we call a fair labor standard. So those blank T-shirts that you get are not going to be produced by a 7-year-old in Bangladesh making 5 cents an hour. They have to abide by a code. So there's certain standards that they have to abide by. So you can feel good about the product that you're getting and where that came from. So there's kind of a 3-prong mission for trademarks and licensing at Purdue. And that is to protect, promote, and profit from the brand. So protecting means our office is responsible for registering all the trademarks for the university, ensuring that those trademarks are renewed. We work in collaboration with legal counsel on that. We also ensure that those who are using the university's trademarks have rights to use those marks, because like I said, it's not legal to use them if you don't have those rights. And if you see somebody selling T-shirts out of their trunk at a football game, they probably aren't licensed. Or if you see some of those social media posts for products, a lot of times they're not licensed. In those cases, we do send cease and desist letters. For compliance at football games and those kind of events, we've actually employed Purdue Police to help us with confiscation of that product. We also promote the brand through licensed product. We work with vendors, the companies that produce product, and retailers to do special promotions, whether that's theme games, Hammer Down Cancer, Military Appreciation Appreciation Day and athletics. We do football games with them and product-related and that benefit certain programs at Purdue. There's actually even a Purdue plaid that was produced through the apparel technology program here at Purdue, so they do benefit as well. So profit, like I said, the royalties from product go to student scholarships, but it also goes to some special programs even at Purdue. Like I mentioned, the Hammer Down Cancer game, certain part of the proceeds from that product goes to the Cancer Center at Purdue. The Military Appreciation Game product from that benefits the entrepreneurship boot camp for veterans. And just recently, we could say that the fermentation science program at Purdue is now benefiting from the Boiler Gold. So there's some revenue to be had from the brand as well. So here's a few reasons you might want to contact Trademarks and Licensing at Purdue. To find a licensed vendor for a product, sometimes it can be daunting. There's a lot of licensees. I think we have over 300 licensees, and 38 of them are internal providers of licensed product. So sometimes it can be a little bit of a challenge to find out, who is the best provider. So please feel free to reach out to our office. We'd be happy to give you some recommendations on who those providers are best suited for what your need is. For any kind of general questions about trademarks or Purdue branded products or unique needs that you have, we also have several providers that do online stores for fundraising activities. I know there's several units and schools that have online product sites that benefit their school. So we have probably half dozen providers of that service as well. Come to us if you do see a compliance issue, if there's something that doesn't seem right to you. Our eyes and ears are as much as we can, but it's very helpful to have you guys involved with us with that too. Anytime you might have a trademark registration question, there are several schools, colleges that have programs, specifically some unique programs that they've trademarked, and we can help with that process as well. And then finally, third-party rights of use, and I think Emily kind of alluded to that. There's times where external third parties want to use our brand and in collaboration with their partnership with us, and we can help on that front too, as well as Emily. So we wanted to show you just a few things, resources on the website that might be helpful to you. Okay. If you're looking for a licensed product, if you come to purdue.edu/trademarks, there is a yellow box right here called Departmental Request. If you click on that, it tells you the whole process on how to purchase a licensed product as an internal group. And this link right here goes to a list of our vendors that are approved to use for internal orders. So, like I said, if you have questions, this is a long list. I think there's 38 of them on there. So, and they do list what they offer the products. But if you need some guidance on that front, we'd be happy to help you. Another thing that I did mention is the fundraising sites, the companies that can help you with that. And that is listed on this page under licensing. There's just a drop down and a link to fundraising team stores. So those are the providers of that service. And then finally, if you have any questions, here are the two staff members within my organization who are the frontliners on trademarks and licensing. Erica Austin is our manager, and Jim Vergink is her support person in that area. Okay, so just the last thing I was going to mention, and I just kind of alluded to it a little bit, was trademarks and licensing. Does trademark registration can help coordinate with that for you. These are some of the basic steps to it. It is kind of a bit of an involved process. It does take probably 4 to 6 months to get that application pulled together, all the specimens that you would need to submit. Once it goes to the USPTO office for an examiner attorney to look at, it can take anywhere up to 18 months, depending on the workload and what's coming, what they have on their plate to review. From there, it goes to what they call the Gazette for a 30-day publication in the Gazette for a 30-day review for opposition. There are fees associated with doing that trademark registration. So, and it does need to go through some vetting even before it is submitted. So, if you're thinking along those lines, it is a longer process, but we do have some groups that do work with us on that. So I think that's all we have on trademarks and licensing. So I guess we'll start opening it up to questions for any questions anybody has on there.
We want this to be a dialogue, so this is our time to hear from all of you. Please give us your thoughts, questions, advice, counsel. We do have runners with mics because we want to get these questions on the video for those who will be viewing this later. So if you could wait until the mic comes to you, that would be appreciated. Okay, over there. And if you would give us your name and your area, please, too.
Yeah, hi. My name's Munir. I'm with International Undergraduate Admissions. I just had a question as far as so there's an internal vendor list and then the licensee list. Do these change often? Is it like once a year, once every couple months? I just, because I was scrolling through it online just now and I noticed a printer that we used a couple years back is no longer on the list.
Correct.
And the printer we used recently, like a year ago, is no longer on the list. So I just curious on the timing of all that. Thank you.
There's an annual renewal on licensees, and that typically happens in late spring. So come July 1 is when the new licensees. So the only list change after that effect would be if we added a licensee. But generally after July 1 each year is the current list. But feel free to reach out to us anytime you have a question, though, because sometimes things do change along the way, but that's in general rule. Oh, well, the printers are not on the list unless they're a licensee. There are some, like Priority Press, they are a printer, but they're also a licensee because they do promotional products. So, yeah, generally, print vendors, printing companies are not licensees. There are a few if they dive into other products beyond just printing. So.
So my name is Patty Hauk, and I work in Schliemann Hall with student receivables and business services. And I just got finished putting in a purchase order for $3,155 for a graphic that's going to go in Hovde Hall that is the image of a train, which is not necessarily Purdue's logo. So how do those images relate to what's happening here? There's nothing on that graphic image that says Purdue.
Yeah, then you should be fine. I mean, honestly, we allow a lot of creative expression within our icons, I should say. Not necessarily taking our registered marks and distorting them in any way, but again, if you're not literally using our technical Boilermaker Special registered mark, but if you're using, based on a photograph of the actual machine or just a train in general, that's absolutely fine and acceptable and is done a lot around here. So you're fine.
We do provide exceptions to vendors who are just producing an internal product for us. So it doesn't necessarily mean that if it's a unique niche product, like a vendor doing a signage thing like that, we typically can give an exemption on that.
So then I would assume then that a decal that has a Motion P on it with a fat head that you bought on Amazon is probably not.
Well, it's hard telling. We have done some takedown on Amazon and in the past, so there are some groups out there that are licensed vendors that are on Amazon. I know even University Bookstore sells product on Amazon. So sometimes it can be a challenge to figure out what is right. Look for the hologram. Just look for the hologram. If they have a hologram, it's licensed. So if they don't have a hologram, it's not licensed. It's probably the simplest way.
Hi, I'm Amy Ross with the Krannert School of Management and the Purdue NSFI Corps program. And you said that when the generator goes live, that designees from each college will be able to do the lockups and stuff within their area. Do they then, are they responsible for disseminating that across their own college?
Yeah, for instance, if Krannert decides to have a limited number of designees within, say, Tim Newton's office to facilitate those requests, then they would receive those files, but then be responsible for giving it back to the original requester internally.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Chrissy Crawley from Purdue Musical Organizations. I had a question about co-brands. We were one of the guilty brands up on the screen at the beginning. And we have a PMO Music Note logo that we use in conjunction with the Purdue standard signature logo. My question is, after February 2018, are we going to be able to still use that combination of our logo with the Purdue signature logo, or is it only going to be logos that are generated from that online tool?
We definitely want you to continue using your musical note. It's how big is it on the side of Bailey Hall?
It's probably the biggest logo on campus.
But again, yeah, it would not be incorporated within, like, as an element added to the Purdue signature logo or the co-brand, where it would be Purdue University and then bands and orchestras underneath it, or, you know, Purdue musical organizations, or, you know, you name it, whatever would be underneath it. So again, you would use that musical note as part of your brand identity, but again, it's not like it's hanging off of the logo or anything like that. So again, just like I showed with the Motion P, and I think on Mark's, one of his first slides, it showed the signature mark with that clear space around it as well, again, due to it being federally registered. And so again, as long as you respect that clear space and not make it look like it's being an addition, again, that's it's an important part of your history, and yes, continue to use the note.
Thank you.
Kendra Rogers, Engineering Professional Education. So I just had a question about the logo. It looks like the university's kind of the orangish, yellowish color. Is there a specific reason why it's that color? And if you use the logo on, say, like letterhead, can it be more of the old golds to be more standard with Purdue, or does it have to be that yellowish color?
The gold that we have right now, we call Campus Gold, and for those of you real savvy, it's PMS 110C. But we've noticed, and we did a lot of research in the past, when we unveiled our updates to our secondary color palette a few years back, as well as an updated gold. There was a lot of work done, not just in the printing world, uncoded versus coded stock versus web use, and looking at how the golds look different on different screens. Because I'm sure, like, even the gold up here, that's probably not our true gold. It just looks like this on this particular projector. We also worked with trademarks and licensing and looking at how the gold inks are applied at the marketplace. Because if you go into a bookstore and look at the wide range of the different golds you see in merchandise. So that's when we actually devised kind of a swatch booklet of our colors. And so a lot of time, and here's an example, look at that. So here's and you can go onto Purdue Marketing's website and
Shameless plug.
request your own swatch book. If you don't have one yet, please either connect with your marketing strategist, or if you don't know who that is, you can download one from request one from our Purdue Marketing website. So at the end of the day, it shows, again, coded versus uncoded, spot color versus CMYK, and what the gold should look like in the color codes. And so what you might be seeing, if you order, for instance, if you order a stationery from Xerox and blanks come back and the yellow is just really, really light, it should be matching this, because this has been proven to be dark enough and legible enough, and it matches our color. But if you're saying printing out a digital letterhead on a printer, every printer on campus varies in what the colors will turn out to look like. So we've had this question come to us a lot. It was sometimes printing almost a neon yellow on some printers. And so we say, again, hey, we'll give you a swatch book. You can tweak the code of what that color is until basically you get that printer to match what this color is, because we promise it'll look good. And so that's my answer to that. Hopefully that helps. So again, request your swatch book if you don't have one. It's a great tool.
I'm Rosie Lerner from the Department of Horticulture and Landscape Architecture, and just going back to the departmental designees, how will that be decided? Is each department within a college going to have their own designee, or is it going to be by colleges?
We're letting it up to every area. So another thing that's happened behind the scenes that I don't think was addressed in here, but since February of this year, we've been holding top-level meetings with the deans and also VPs on campus to kind of soft launch this and to get their initial reaction, to determine that this is the most flexible option out there, to look into their individual needs, and again, making sure this is the best possible outcome, and everyone was prepared. So in meeting with those key constituents that were identified, then I will follow up with them. So for ag, that'd be Maureen in AgCom, for instance. And so following up with her, and she and her team will determine how they want that to work, just from a workflow process internally, to determine who those designees are. So we're really empowering each unit to determine who those people are. Then they will provide us with your career account name. I pass that to developer, and you're in. So that's the process we're looking at.
My name is Carol Weaver. I'm with Agricultural and Biological Engineering. We have 2 sets of rules because we're in 2 different colleges. With the last branding effort, we lost a signature that we had been using for almost 20 years because it was not all small caps. It is the word agricultural and ampersand and the word biological together, and we have not been allowed to use it for a number of years. Is there a possibility that we can go back to using that logo?
Again, I would refer to it as a secondary graphic element or a word mark, and not thinking that it can be a standalone logo. Again, we've found, again, with the research and to help with the dilution of our brand, that we want to bring everything back to like the mother brand per se with the signature mark. And so we can take a look at what you used previously, and if you found that there was like a decrease of any of your numbers based on the fact that you've not used it any longer, or in a lot of cases, there are colleges that have what we like to refer to as legacy marks. And if your alumni resonates more with that mark and you want to continue to use that, again, as an additional graphic on your pieces, you can do that. And again, we want to provide illustrations on how to properly do that, but keeping it co-branded with the main identity mark. And so reach out to us and we can look at that on an individual basis, because we want this to be flexible and serve your constituents as best as possible. Okay.
Hi, Lisa Peterson, new this week, College of Science. I was curious, you said that you were working on the, I guess it would probably be not vector text, but sort of the responsive logos that would go on sites. Are you talking about banners, essentially?
It would be, well, right now, like within our Purdue.edu template, we have the top of the page. I'm going to pull it up real quick. We have kind of a convention here. Here's one for trademarks and licensing. So if you were to pull that up on your mobile phone and condense your screen, then all the content shifts around.
Right.
So that would be, it would be that. It would be seeing how that would be shrunk down with the new convention of the co-brand logos, especially if we're talking about a 2-tier system, because a lot of times we're finding
Sort of, does the line move down, and then
Yeah,
what happens
yeah.
after that? Does it
Yeah.
get centered, or, well,
Yes.
and that's difficult. Okay.
Yes.
So you're talking about a couple of different things, and not only just a mark that you might, well, actually you might not use a mark anywhere but on the banner, come to think of it, or maybe down in the footer.
Sometimes in the footer of our pages, and this actually
Yep.
is a page that needs to be updated. It's a little bit they're updating it currently. Sometimes in the footer of some of your pages, you do have the logo as well. But yeah, we're aware that this is a challenge, and we're working through it to determine what the best suggestion will be moving forward on how to display that.
Great, and when again was that happening, whereabouts?
Well, we are right now again testing everything and coming. And one of the main milestones we're working on is updating our brand toolkit, and we're making especially our digital guidelines a lot more robust. There's a lot has changed in the last 7 years in the world of the web and digital applications. So they're doing a lot of work, and they'll have again guidelines. So if it's prior to February 5th, that'd be great. If not, that's kind of our end-all be-all of when it will be live
It's
on
like
our site.
you're drop dead.
Yes.
Or you're trying to get that
or
deadline.
we're all fired.
Hi, I'm Teresa Walker with Engineering Education, and I have actually been trying to work on my phase-out plan already because we have a pretty big group. I'm getting pushback, though, And I found out they were actually using it incorrectly with the triangle anyway, with the engineering logo, where they were just using it in the corner because they don't want all the words. So I got a little excited about the Motion P, but we can't use that, like, only promotional things.
Yeah, just promotional items, and there's many reasons for that. Again, going back to the research that showed the attributes that people assign mentally to the logos and how we want, things to be a little bit separated from the spirit and the athletic realm and then our educational realm. But you might have also noticed we don't use the same gold. We're not going to get into that today. But because of that, it makes things just look a little different, and people start to question, and we're not changing theirs, and athletics isn't asking us to change ours. And so that's another big reason of why things should not be co-branded from the academic and the athletic mark, the Motion P standpoint.
Okay. So,
but did you have a question specifically about the boomerang? We call it the boomerang.
the boomerang, is that what we're calling it? Okay,
Well, yeah,
the boomerang. So
Yeah.
are we should not use that?
I would say that's, okay.
Not with your co-brand.
Not with
co-brand.
your co-brand. Yes,
Okay.
I was going to put it all on Christine and your marketing. Again, that would kind of be in the same realm as seeing as like a legacy mark, or using like the music note as an enhancement. But again, that's really up to for Christine or for your new dean to determine, and Kate Walker, your marketing strategist. And so I'm not going to make that call today, but that should not be, again, like co-branded with the official logo, like they're one and the same.
Got it.
We consider it a graphic or like a word mark.
Okay.
So if you have equity in it, sure, there's a time and a place, but keep it separate from the Purdue signature logo and the co-brand.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name's Heather Core. I represent the Office of Future Engineers Minority Engineering Program and Women in Engineering Program. And I think my biggest concern from all that I've heard today is probably that we're in an active recruitment cycle. So I know that your timelines are your timelines, but for us, a shift in the brand guidelines mid-recruitment cycle is a huge concern for me, because we don't want to confuse the demographic we're recruiting with a shift in how we appear mid-cycle. So I kind of want some feedback and thoughts on that, because we're actively producing materials now, and then midway through, with the web template changing, even slightly for this demographic, they're very visual people, and they're going to notice. And that's, the brand we're recruiting them under.
Well, my hope is that they'd notice and see it as an improvement, and so then they'll applaud us, right? No, I completely understand. Again, this is kind of, not maybe the most perfect timing. We are looking at, we work within Slate to help come up with the email through admissions for a lot of your units. And we're looking at, in advance, creating the top level co-brands, so for the colleges levels, when those emails are going out, to include the new co-brands. That'll be prior to February 5th, that they'll start to appear on those pieces. In the interim, like I suggested, if there's any way possible for you just to use the signature mark, and then within the headline or something else visible to convey the name of your department or program, that would be the best probably solution, because that signature mark is not changing at all. Also, again, you can continue to use your co-brand, and that's existence currently, with the hope that people don't notice too much, or hopefully not get fixated or make a decision to not come here based on that. But I guess, I know it's not perfect, but to just use the signature mark. And again, we're getting so close on this logo generator. If it could be live tomorrow, I'd be so excited. We can all just start. But we want to make sure, of course, it's perfectly working and developing the logos that you need in the correct format and style. So hope that helps, Heather. We'll let you be the first to know when it's ready.
It helps some, I think, and to echo off that, one of our concerns is less click-throughs or less enthusiasm with the loss of the motion P or the train, or maybe it was never allowed, but we dared to do it anyway. But in the focus groups with our students, they're having a hard time of why are we going under this umbrella of just the signature mark. They're like, we love Pete, we love the train, we love the P, what are you doing? They're kind of looking at me like I'm a little crazy right now. So we're trying to explain to them, we're trying to make the brand unity, as you've told us already.
Yeah.
So do you have any advice for us when we walk our focus groups through this process, the freshmen on campus, and telling them this is a good move?
It's not an elimination of using those marks. You can use those marks. They're just not supposed to be used as your academic brand.
So we can
if you
use
wanna
them on
create
our Slate
something-
emails?
Pardon me?
We can use them on our Slate emails.
No.
No. No. Promotional items for the motion P, student orgs have a lot more freedom. If the College of Engineering wanted to create a T-shirt with Purdue Pete, or I'm sorry, let me say not Purdue Pete, because we want to limit that to student orgs use. If you want to create a T-shirt with the motion P on it that says College of Engineering, that doesn't look like the logo, it's not used in a logo font, you're good to do that. So hopefully on those promotional items, that's okay. But again, we want there to be more of a separation of the athletic and the academic mark. Now, if you are talking about the campus atmosphere within recruitment, you're talking about game day and the excitement of being on a Big Ten campus, you can use the athletic marks in that setting. We do that in our admissions view book. We have the athletic marks. But again, just understand the appropriateness of when to use the correct logo, if that makes sense. I hope that helps a little bit. We're not taking away any of the logos. We're just kind of more clarifying the use of them. So again, there's not so many, because that was one of the major feedbacks of, like, I don't know what the right logo is, or who can use what, and why do we even have this one? And so again, that, is all based on that research of the confusion of having so many logos. So that's why we're trying to condense the use and clarify what should be used in which application.
Okay, thanks. Maybe we'll just send you a piece once we have it.
Yeah, no, anytime that you have any questions at all or about what you should use, or, again, we're here as a resource, and we'd love to work with any of you to help. And again, we want to know about these specific cases and the feedback that you're receiving from your areas or from your students, because again, we want this to best serve them and do us all good, so.
I'm Aaron Yoder. I'm with Bands and Orchestras. And so we have kind of a unique thing where we have some of our logos are through athletics because we have athletic bands, but then we also have kind of our academic bands, you could say. Do you have any advice on how to create unity within our department while also being unified under the two different logos?
Yeah, let's meet. We'd love to work with you. Honestly, we had a meeting when we met with Beth McCuskey to discuss the logos. And again, it was that misconception. She came into it and said, bands is really important to me. You're not going to take away our band drum logo, are you? And I said, absolutely not. And she's like, okay, great. We're good then. So again, an understanding that we want you to have, this rich tradition, these marks that are a little bit separate from maybe our traditional. But again, co-branding, opportunities to do that. I'm not saying one side of the drum has to have the signature mark and the other one doesn't, nothing like that. But there's a lot of unique instances on what you guys do. And so I'd say give us a call.
Hi, my name is Haley. I'm with the International Students and Scholars Office. What type of things do you have in place for departments or offices that partner together to be able to put both onto the co-brand?
Should we use the CCO example?
So are you saying that you want to, like, it would be in your department and then another department, like co-sponsoring an event or on a particular marketing collateral piece? You can either express that through just using the generic signature mark and including that within the copy or the headline, or you can use both of the logos, the separate logos. So we don't have any version of the logos that would say Purdue University with the signature mark and then have, College of Health and Human Sciences and College of Engineering underneath it. Those logos will not exist. They're just to designate a single area, or again, the double tier drilling down within that specific area. But we don't have a convention. We would just have you either put, both of those logos on the piece or just the generic Purdue logo, and again, explaining somewhere else on there is probably what we would recommend. Okay.
Hello, I'm Hope from Construction Engineering and Management, and I was wondering if there's going to be a vertical co-brand option to do the double tier.
I'm so glad you asked about that. Let me go to our appendix. We were anticipating this question. Our design team did extensive work on the feasibility of the vertical system, the horizontal system, maximum word counts. We have done research on what's the longest possible department and office and program name here at the university, so we can determine character counts. And just as we find one that's a couple letters longer. But we definitely, again, we want this to be flexible and accommodable. So we did explore the vertical orientation in having it double tiered. And this is an example of what would be allowed. And again, this is actually, we have 100 characters maximum per line. So the one on the left is actually permissible. That's how many, if you have that many characters in your department name or program or college to create a co-brand, that's permissible. When you go over to the example on the right, that would not be allowed. After looking at that, we realized, again, the area that is describing the office and then drilling down underneath that is larger than the actual Purdue University mark. And Mark just best explained it. He said, we don't want the logo to start to look like you're looking at an eye chart at the doctor's office with all of the different lines below it. So we really did take a hard look at that. But again, it goes back to what I talked about with the logos not needing to explain every layer within your area. Think about who are you communicating to on that particular piece? What is most important for them to know? That you're part of engineering overall, that you're the Department of Construction and Engineering Management, and work the other components onto that particular piece if you have that ability in other means other than trying to cram that all into the logo. Or of course you do have the horizontal option, which will allow for you to have the double tier. Good question. One thing I was just reminded that I failed to mention earlier, when talking about that co-brand logo generator, when you receive the zip files of those logos, when you work with a licensee on any promotional items, they will request that logo from you, the approved logos. What they have access to through Learfield are more of our general logos, the signature mark, the motion P, things like that. So if you request to use any of those marks on items, they have access to those, but they will need to receive from you the zip file, the official, approved marketing media approved logo from you. And again, that's the beauty of, you'll have that link and you'll be able to download and then submit that to those licensees. Only what?
To only approved.
Only approved, yes. Only approved. And one more thing, in talking about the team stores, those of you that do have a fundraising site for like Cranert Gear as an example, I know Liberal Arts has some products within Cranert Gear, start now also to think about changing those logos over and then transition of updating the logos on those products if they need to be changed moving forward.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add that I will be communicating to all of our internal licensees that this change is coming. And I was always told I have such a loud voice, I don't need one of these. But so we will be notifying the licensees and letting them know that this new system is coming, that they might be receiving calls from you to talk about moving product off of the site, moving new product on the site. We're perfectly okay with you having the old product on the site to try to get rid of it. And if you want to have a clearance sale, whatever you want to do is fine on your site. But they will know that this is coming. They will know that they will need to get the logos from you. And they will know what they can and can't do with the logos. So we'll definitely make sure we educate them on that.
Corey Sharp with Purdue Polytechnic Anderson. Being that we're off campus and we try to designate that we're in Anderson, but we're just specifically with Polytechnic and not the entire university, our old building signage would have Purdue University on it, and we would often get calls for nursing, agriculture, engineering. How do we do that with the other statewide locations with some of the branding?
Well, We've already, Jackie, right, we've already started to address this with some signage recently. Yeah, basically just using the Purdue University, but like the double tiers, putting Purdue, Polytechnic Institute with Anderson underneath it. Or again, really we need to start having those conversations with Jackie and whoever the designees are to determine that architecture structure. But yeah, absolutely, we want it to be specific to those statewide locations to differentiate from main campus, with who you serve, and that you don't offer a slew of all the different academic programs at your location.
Do you have anything to add, Jackie?
No.
No? Okay.
Hi, Tanya Agnew with the College of Education. I had a question. You mentioned all the surveying you did and the data that this is based on. Lots of folks would be interested in understanding what this is based on, and this will help me communicate the message to why this is important. The data is going to really make a difference with a lot of the people I will be communicating this message to. Are there some highlights that you could share with us, I don't know, document maybe you already have put together that we could pull from?
Yeah, absolutely. We have the full research that we did, the qualitative and SME's quantitative, which then talked about the recommendations that I outlined. Some of the recommendations, one in particular, we knew we couldn't really fulfill. So we haven't completed all the recommendations because we had to look at what was feasible. But I don't see any problem in sharing that with all of you. In the beginning, Julie talked about how it's been a while since we all got in a room together. When we first did come together last year to talk about the research findings, it was a smaller group. It was more department heads or like administrative leaders. That's why we felt it important, though, to have this meeting and open it up literally to the entire campus community to talk about this and moving forward in the future to be as transparent as possible. We never meant to, operate, incognito to begin with, but we definitely wanted everyone to feel included. And so by, of course, making all that research available, yeah, absolutely. So either, sometimes I know with the Purdue Communicator Council meetings, we send the follow-up survey and it has some links. Perhaps we can add that as a link to download from that email. But if not, then we'll definitely get those resources out to everyone for you to view.
Hi, Denise Burmester from the College of Health and Human Sciences. So with the logo generator, I was wondering, when you have a Department of Nutrition Science, for example, and so if they want a logo to be generated, and then somebody wants it just to say Nutrition Science, that would sort of be two different logos for the same department. I know someone's going to be approving it, but do you see some guidelines and maybe suggesting consistency, or does it even matter? I mean, does it matter if one logo says Department of Nutrition Science, the other one says Nutrition Science?
I would definitely push for consistency and using the same logo, and that would probably fall on you or other designees within your office, since you're the communications lead for HHS. So just that's why, again, the next step would be I'm going to be reaching out to all of you who we've met with previously, talking about who those designees should be, but also coming up with what those parameters are within your college. So we're clear and that your staff is clear. So when you are creating them, there is that consistency. So what we're most concerned with, I think, from marketing and media is that there's consistency to your level of standards. We're not here to dictate what we feel is right for you. You guys know best, and we trust you, obviously, with that. As long as that, again, there is that consistency. I agree with you on that. We don't want there to be two different ones floating around that are close but not quite the same. It's important for that consistency.
And then one more question. What do we do when we see one of our student groups have created this really crazy looking mark and it looked like you had cleaned up some of them, or maybe you just did that for this presentation? Who do we direct them to? How do we talk to them?
You can send them to us. Again, SAO, again, we had 1,000 organizations, nearly 400 logos collected, which is really good, but that's less than half if every club had their own logo, which they don't. But if you find, and then the trick is also every year there's new leadership. They might want a new identity. And so it's a re-education process every year, and we realize that. And so we're going to conferences and reaching out through the SAO bulletins to reach these people every year to remind them of, we have a Be a Brand Champion campaign specifically for student orgs. So send them to Purdue Brand. If there's a logo in question that you think they're utilizing parts of other registered marks and they might not, should not be doing that, you can send them our way. And then when it comes time, if they are to want to produce shirts or things of that nature, then I would toss it over to TNL, Erica and her colleagues to then help the student orgs navigate through using licensed vendors. So yeah, send them our way.
Thank you.
We're happy to help.
You are the eyes and ears of the campus. So not to rat somebody out, but if you see something, say something. And, you know, there's our contacts up there, so thank you.
Chris Collins, Office of International Students and Scholars. You mentioned trinkets and trash, and you mentioned royalties. We do a lot of community volunteer. We have a lot of community volunteers participate in some of the things that we do with our international students, and we like to reward them and help them dress appropriately for the event by giving them a T-shirt that has Purdue information on it, as well as our office. Are we going to expect to see that we have to now pay the royalty on that giveaway?
No, for promotional products, you do not have to pay a royalty. They are royalty exempt. The only time you would have to pay a royalty on a promotional product, or like you're saying, apparel, is if it then goes into a fundraising activity. So if you are taking an item, putting it out for someone to purchase at a higher rate than what you paid for it, that you would put a royalty, we would charge a royalty on that because of the fundraising aspect of it.
So we still use the internal vendor.
You still
We
use
just
the
let
internal
them know that
vendor.
we're consuming it, we're not selling it.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And they'll probably ask, or they'll ask me when they submit it through the system for artwork approval. They'll say, please let us know if this is royalty exempt or not. But for all internal items, you are exempt from royalties. Again, the only time that we tack on the royalty is if you're doing a fundraising or doing something for profit. Does that help?
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Angie Roberts in Research Communications. I have a complex question, and we may need to have a meeting to discuss it. But I'm getting a lot of questions from people in Discovery Park about their centers. A lot of them have their own logos. They're not housed in a particular college or department for the most part. So I'm trying to figure out what to tell them about what they are going to be doing with their center logos. Are we now saying they are not allowed to use them at all, anywhere, or do they use them along with Discovery Park, along with the Purdue logo? I'm a little confused because you were showing all the student organization logos, and it sounds like those are kosher as long as they're not trying to like adapt something from the Purdue logo.
Yes, we have met with some members of your staff to talk about this same issue. I think Sarah is, as a designer in EVPRP, is navigating through this as well. So again, going back to telling areas that they don't need to throw out their individual identity, the same with the centers. We understand that it could be a unique partnership with other institutions or multidisciplinary on our own campus. And so to have them get rid of this equity that they're trying to build within their unique identity would not be right. So again, we're trying to work out, and we have some different design schemes. Again, Sarah has kind of been mocking things up in the last few months as we're undergoing this transition to where, again, you still bring it back to the mother brand. You bring it back to Purdue University as an institution. So again, correctly co-branding, even if it's just the signature mark, plain and simple, on the bottom of a piece. And then you have the center logo front and center. There's been lots of talks again about how Discovery Park has a third different logo. So you're kind of co-branding at this point. So we are working through that process, and that was the point of the various stakeholder meetings that we've been holding since February, reaching out to the different areas on campus to understand the uniqueness and the challenges that they face, so then we could help navigate through those and come up with the best solutions possible. So that is one, I believe, it's still a work in progress, but we're definitely not saying for the centers to get rid of the identity that they've built. It's just, again, how that aligns with the Purdue brand, and that could be as simple as including some of our graphic elements within our visual identity, or again, of course, always remembering to include the signature mark on pieces that are going out, because again, it just helps everyone in the long run to tie into the equity of the overall brand.
But it was my understanding that there had been no decision made, and so I had talked to my boss like last week about this, trying to understand. We were ordering some promotional pieces, and we were getting questions from the clients about, can we incorporate our logo into this? And so we were hoping to get some more direction through this meeting today and some subsequent information. So I wasn't aware that there was anything being
I
decided
think we're
behind the
still kind of in the exploratory process. There's nothing that, we definitely don't want to give you direction on what we think you should do. We want this to be collaborative. And so we'll reconnect with you guys and we'll continue that discussion. We'll bring this up again, okay?
Okay, great.
So I did have a question. What file formats are going to be in the zip file? And are you going to have reverse, like if we want to put it on black, or do we need to do that?
We are still working on all of those various formats. Right now, we have AI, PNG, EPS, and I don't know what SVG is, but there's SVG in my, okay. And right now we just have it in, because we do have vector, it's just in the black and gold. Again, we are beta testing still, working closely with our developers. I don't know if it'll be as robust as what you might get now, which if you were to request a complete logo package from us, you get like 30 something crazy styles. But we'll give you enough to basically cover all of your needs, and if you need more, then we can help you with that. But it'll give you those main 4 ones is what it's doing right now.
My name is Kim DeLeon. I'm with the Business Intelligence Competency Center, and we're under an envelope of ITAP. And I'm not heard anybody talk about internal communication, because we only communicate with other users in other offices. We don't go off campus necessarily. So I didn't know if we would kind of still be under the same guidelines and rules. I'm a business analyst. We don't have a communications person, so I guess I'm it. But so I'm just trying to get it, the rules, and because we have a logo, I don't know that it's accurate because it was in place when I came here. So I just need a little guidance on internal things.
I have some thoughts on that. I don't know if I've vetted it by everyone and if I'm allowed to say this, but here's my own personal theories on this. I feel, again, go back to considering who you're talking to and the environment around you. So we have a lot of internal ITAP software, such as I think like Boiler Backpack. I think that might be going away. But there's different things such as that that ITAP has created icons for and kind of a little bit of a brand identity. But it is only for an internal audience. Is it important to slap Purdue all over it and to really brand it as Purdue? Perhaps not, because again, you consider the environment you're in. You already know you're at Purdue. Now, if you were to take that to a trade show to showcase all the wonderful things that ITAP is doing, you would be missing an opportunity. Of course, you did not tie that back to Purdue University. So are we saying that all of your logos or your internal communications need to always be branded with the Purdue signature mark? No, we're not saying that. Really, it's more of providing guidance to you on our research of how our external audience perceives Purdue and our various logos to remind you of, again, the equity we have within it. So again, on a case-by-case basis, we're happy to consult you if you think you should use it or you're not quite sure. But that's a good question.
Hi, Lisa from the Office of Engagement. Just in general, curious, do you know when the logo generator will be up and running? Will that be by the end of the year or after the first of the year?
Again, we know that it'll be up and running by February 5th. That's like the date in my head that everything is due on February 5th. Now, again, I know we said that moving forward from February 5th on, we want you to incorporate the new logos. And if you didn't have an opportunity to have them created before then, what can you do? So again, we are still working on getting the beta testing up and running. As soon as this is available for a wider release, we will let everyone know.
Part of that test is we're going to have a couple of licensees actually try to embroider the logo and the different levels of the logo to see how crisp and clean it can get. We've already heard some feedback from our licensees that there is a concern about using upper and lower case, especially with embroidery on particular products. So we are working with our licensees. We're going to have them do a couple stitch outs so that we can make sure that they can provide the quality that you guys need with this new logo system.
Thank you for all the great questions. If there's a question you didn't get to ask, again, there's our contact information.